Alright, time to finish this. I believe we're almost done, so let's do it. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl, transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat. Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that I was mistaken for thinking that Reina, even now. Then what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so the three of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Reina? What about the police? Wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you, after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? The victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here and Oyashiro-sama's curse. Did the teacher at school tell you anything? A school is hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then, there was no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak. The school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yep, I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wished this incident to be kept from the public, so if you and I both forget about it, my Bara, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period we sat in silence. At first glance it looked like a simple assault case. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by roiling waves sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during that time she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics, or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself had no legal binding authority after all. Then, how did you know that Reina confessed that it was Oyashiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then, what did she say? Turns out that nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all she remembered was what she ever heard from inside the room. The nurse said that at the time, Reina Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Reina for a while. The part with Oyashiro, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oyashiro-sama! Reina suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what she said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor, calmly and collectedly, asked Reina to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently. The fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they've finally gotten to me. That's the town you've lived in before you moved here, isn't that right, Ryugu? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro-sama wouldn't allow it. Ryugu-san must have had lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner, but now it's too late. Oyashiro-sama has come. Oyashiro is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't that right? Everyone knows it's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. And if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You had moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god arrived, is that what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists. That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was Oyashiro doing, right? I do believe there is some kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. That if you leave the village, then you incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, my Bara. I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then, the following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leaders advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally, people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder, curses weren't something that chase after people that leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered that bit over the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, right? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of the ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onagafuchi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro. Those who set foot in Onagafuchi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that. I know that, but for leaving to also be no good, that's... Also the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama so that they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onagafuchi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro was. So basically, Oyashiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess. Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Reina originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means because Reina moved away, against its wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro-sama? Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then why only Reina? Shouldn't Reina's parents also have been guilty of same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal. At most, there would be one person dying and one disappearing on the day of the Wananagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why her classmates, the victims, who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? Of course I didn't want to believe it, but more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Reina made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also been infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, like me. Oh, interesting. Named Rin as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she had used at that time of the horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Reina? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Reina was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Reina, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I was really under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No. More importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanished without a trace. Reina was fine. Fine? Reina had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Reina residing within her. And here, right now, it was standing before me. Reina, please tell me what will happen to me. Reina stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Reina didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or expression of feeling. Don't worry, I'll save you. Reina took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then. One step closer, Reina's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. Reina's nose was close enough to touch mine and was still pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay? I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Reina. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast, even I couldn't believe it, and pushed Reina away with both hands. Reina was light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was in the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Reina. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto the bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself grasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of the simulacrum of Reina coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head, and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, my field vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered by the scenery. I felt I knew, but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized it was the dam site. The fact I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone to run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Reina wasn't there. Instead, I saw 2 villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Reina, but a third party, except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, 2 adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise a question. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and finally started imagining things? I should run. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were a part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried, Reina would catch me. That's right. I was going to run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion that Reina was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made that assumption that I didn't need to fear anything else, but right now I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Oishi-san told me about the demons all leaving village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening, being unable to shake Reina off as she slowly closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with just such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuers' arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about that, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact you can't give away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg, or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right! Left! I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? The 2 of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched arms, ready to grab me instead, grasped at empty space. The man on the right, and I applaud him for being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment, but it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just 2 people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Reina. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one is going to be right in your face, you bastard! It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me, with unbelievable calm expressions on their face. One of them would grab onto my bat, and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I'd just have to settle it with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right, who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, their bow would snap like a twig. If they turned their back, it was possible the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. With this distance, in this position, and in this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth with a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment, the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like I was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began playing deep in my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with a phrase that adequately described my situation. Womp womp womp. I'm alive. He's alive. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, pain shot throughout my entire body. Feeling all right? I think you'd better just lie down for a bit. Why was Raina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and capillaries, but Raina's smile belonged to the Raina I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed, thinking that this version of Raina was safe. Why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could ever have imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you'd better lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing somebody impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Katie was already passed out. That's why I want to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it, the fogginess in my head cleared right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Raina to be nursing me. I thought Raina was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Reina's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Did she have some help? Don't you remember, Keiichi? Reina appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. You don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two? Huh? When you got there, Reina, the ones with me, or rather those two guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Reina, but if I did that, then this kind Reina might transform into the scary Reina who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Reina would have even stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Reina was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Reina was still Reina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Reina couldn't say anything else. While Reina stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. It must have been the doctor Reina had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call. But it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it almost instantly. Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Reina over the phone. Do I need any other reason than that? I understood why she would call a doctor, but why Mion too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me. Reina, doesn't Kay look pretty all right? Shh, you made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I was worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's up with the shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack that I smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself. But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it for you later. Now, come on, Kay. The terminally ill need their rest. Come, back in bed, back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Reina, did you call the manager? Yep. Right after I called me. He said he'd be right over. Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called the doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Reina and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Didn't you know, Kay? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like the director of a movie. Or like a foreman of a construction site. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Raina had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident, the dismemberment at the dam construction met. The foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does the manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about. Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So, who is this manager? The manager is the manager. So, who is the manager? Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. The disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettlingly, ended abruptly. Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kay? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember what? Keiichi-kun has forgotten, I wonder. About the penalty? About the penalty! Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi? The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Reina made? You forgot about the homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework. But I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Reina made. The penalty for that. Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Reina. Attacked by strange men. The penalty Mion and Reina were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Reina and Mion? Reina had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already sluggish, and Reina pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized that this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been possible for the Reina that I knew. Then these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion, no, that thing looked like Mion, spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was pretending to be Mion. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was by just looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Reina held me even tighter. and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that the Raina I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Raina, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer, and that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, it won't hurt, it won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense to try and confuse me. You're going to have done to you what happened to Tomatake-san. What? The same as I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with the syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi. You should have realized it by now. Rina whispered in my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? But what? What do you mean, the same as Tomatake? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed it wasn't abnormal. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something. No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged, though? That's right. Tomatake had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomatake's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomatake's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they laughed. To assume that such medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomatake to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion injected that into me, then I would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomatake. Become hysterical, scratching my throat out in the last moments, then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Just give up. All right, then. Mion's action lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast, or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time had passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was Certainly with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some comfort. I guess that terrible was a hallucination. Neither Reina nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from the head down to her chest. That bright crimson smeared on the walls, that splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. Oh, he unconsciously attacked them, huh? She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. That same Reina was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long it had been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. Good for you. I did this? That's right, Keiichi Maibara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood, there's so much. Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicked and agitated. Calm down. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Reina and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake, but right before that happened, I fought. I twisted my whole body and threw Reina as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Reina tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of them having off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Oh, maybe Satoshi helped him. Wait. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look and turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Good for you. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes was still too difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had... Please don't do that. I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here, and Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake. And from the fact that both of them were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into darkness like Reina's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of events. Oishi would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Reina called should be getting here soon. Oh shit, the manager. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi. At that moment I remembered, besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with this incident, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. Shit. Run. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. When are his parents coming back? I thought they said today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van. The one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I was at home. Undoubtedly, they just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I needed a weapon. Then shoes. But before all of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise, and that was why. There was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. Leaving a note. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This is an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyways, I'd leave all the information that would help them to find the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from past incidents, then the only one from is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first murder victim in the chain of events. Killed in a lynching, his body divided in 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Reina and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term and refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who is deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think that much. But was that really the case? Could have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I needed to write. Tomitake's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug, it was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck to the syringe on the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it would absolutely not slip out and fall to the floor firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore, but even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it's become like this. It's maybe the closest thing to truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that happened, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Reina and Neon. It was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Reina, Neon, I really had thought all of us were friends. Why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I'd hoped to get into was really where I wanted to go, or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studyings and competition and personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. Yep, and they're all fucking crazy. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life, even if they were trying to kill me, everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I've just arbitrarily assumed they were my friends? That could have been the case. Both Reina and Neon, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me, or their minds were taken over. Possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro. Regardless, both Reina and Neon, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro could happen in reality. I wonder how many times he's said this. Then, a lot. Did the real Reina and Neon come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Reina and Neon, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake. Only the reality that was before me. Reina and Neon were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Both Reina and Neon were dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded in that opening. Insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Reina and Mion, I killed them. They were trying to kill you. Get over it. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Reina for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake, and for the sake of the late Reina and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door, grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind this single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen, headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as if to not make a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms or forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if no one was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran, at full speed. The heck is that supposed to be? Ah. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt that only the Higurashi knew. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recall hearing that tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of municipal revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality. Sorry. So I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Is this Oishi? Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. If you're betting on high tide, then shouldn't you be going into it with mangan? Kura-chan, look at the pond. They all discarded a 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate it. You'd hate if, at the end game, someone was sitting on a tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? I have no idea what that means. The kid let out another groan, put out his cigarette, then took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning tile in the hype tie. What? Why is that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Oishi? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Oops, see you soon. Why can't you call it Ron on it? Hold on a second, Oishi. The man sitting in the seat Oishi was heading towards waved the telephone receiver. Outside line, from a payphone. Oh, I thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Oishi? Hello? If it isn't my bara, why good evening. From the tone, I already knew he was in a predicament. This is the first time my bara had phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, my bara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he? My bara, you're calling from a payphone, right? Where is that payphone? There were no other sounds besides my bara queen's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, my bara. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. My bara couldn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at my bara right now would just needlessly call him to be even more frantic. My bara wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I'd certain there would never be a chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was that as I imagined, there were quite a few people surrounding my bara. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer stationed in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out, and it'll be impossible to contact them. God damn it! Kuma-chan, bring the car around! Understood. Hello? Oishi? Hello? It's all right. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with him. There wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? My bara, the police officers are on their way. They'll be there in a couple minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? My bara! I could hear on the other end he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. My bara! Who is the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting. Are you alright, my bara? I thought that the culprit was a person and not Oyashiro-sama's curse up until right now. But I guess in the end... It was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. But I guess Oyashiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. My bara, please, just calm down, please. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging myself into my back. My bara, are they right now, perhaps? Right behind you? Behind me, right behind me. Please, my bara, I can tell you're scared. But please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I'll... I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. No, don't do it. Who is it? Who is behind you, my Bara? Right after he said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. My Bara! It couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer. But I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something was being hit. My Bara had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over at the other end and repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? My Bara! Hello? I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? My Bara. Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up on what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Suddenly, the line went dead. Did he use up his time? Oh, it was because of the payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi, the car is good to go. Oishi! It was, I'm sorry. Oishi! That's what I was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the higurashi spilling in from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the higurashi knew. That's how I felt. Is he missing? Oh, right, because he was looking for the sewing needle. Well, he lives there, doesn't he? Oh, is he alive? Aw. Damn it. Well, that's good. I thought maybe he was gonna get away. Who is typing this? The police? Oh, god damn it. Damn. Where was the serum? Ah, shit. Someone found it and took the serum? Damn it. He tried so hard. What part is missing? Okay. What did he write after that? Oh, the serum, probably. It's probably about the serum. We finished the first chapter. Ooh. That was long. All cast review session. What's that? Please uncover the truth. I remember that in the anime, but I couldn't remember what happened. Alright, well, cool. I'll post this on YouTube. And let the thing begin. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the first chapter. I'll get to the second chapter. It might take a while, so enjoy this for now. Goodbye.